Howdy friends, this is Mike with All Terrain Family. Today we're with Shawn and the Power Wagon, and we're gonna get the lowdown on everything that's inside and under it, except for the dirty kid stuff. Not gonna worry about that. All right, here we go, let's check it out. Ooh, no, stop!
Well, it's our weekend adventure, play, tow our trailer, go to remote places vehicle. I'm lucky that I have a work truck that I drive every day, so I basically get to just leave this home all week and then drive it on the weekends.
So, how long have you had this? First of all, it is a
2012 Ram Power Wagon.
Okay. How long have you had it?
A little over a year.
Okay. So tell us about all of the things that we have bolted to the outside. First of all, let's start with this cool bumper on the front. What is this?
For people that aren't familiar with the Power Wagon, they're somewhat unique vehicles. They come from the factory with a 12,000 pound winch already mounted to the front. This bumper is made by Kinzer Off-Road in New Mexico, and he only makes a few a year, but it allowed me to keep the winch, the factory winch, in the factory location, and then keep the profile of the bumper very sleek. It didn't hurt the approach angles at all. In fact, obviously in front of the wheels, it considerably helped the approach angles over the stock bumper.
Cool. How was this, talk about the install. How was the install on this?
It was pretty straightforward. I mean, there weren't any instructions, that came with it. I had to obviously remove the stock bumper and then one side at a time loosen up the winch. There's some hardware that had to be removed where it attaches to the frame so that the mounts for the bumper could go where the old mounts did. But it only took us a couple hours with Mike's help and another friend. We were able to wiggle it on. Everything lined up really, really good. I was actually impressed.
It was really perfect, actually.
Yeah. I've put aftermarket bumpers on before and ended up having to use spud wrenches and twist and jack and jam things into place, and this thing actually slid right in. Every single bolt hole lined right up. The bolts slipped right in. It was actually incredibly easy.
It's just 2 bolts, right?
No, not at all. It was it's actually quite a few. So there's these 2 large 1/2-inch diameter bolts on each side, and then there's these smaller 3/8 bolts. This whole piece here is 1/2-inch thick steel that passes through, and then the bumper itself is welded to that. So these mounts are bolted directly to the frame, essentially.
So tell us, if you haven't seen the Snake Lake video, that's where that came from.
Yeah, so, it's a heavy-duty bumper, and Mike said stop, and I said go. And I slid it against the rock. It did put a dent in it. Right now the bumper is actually only rattle canned. I'm going to take it back off and powder coat it, and when I do, I'm going to pound that back out. I'm probably going to fill these holes in, weld these holes up, because I don't think I'm going to use those at the same time.
What are those holes for?
I think the guy that designed this has plans for some type of brush guard.
Okay.
But I don't know that I'm ever going to do that, so for now I'm just going to weld them up and powder coat it.
Okay. So on the front here we've got big tires and wheels. Tell me about the tires and wheels.
So right now I'm actually running just stock Ram Steely 17-inch on 35-inch Toyo open countries. The plan is now to go with 37s. I wish I had done it to begin with, but I was concerned we tow a trailer, so I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of gears and plenty of power to tow a trailer, and it does. With the 456s, it does really well. So at least for summertime, I'm going to go up to 37s on the aluminum Power Wagon wheels, but I'll keep these 35s and the Steelies for wintertime and long trips.
Cool. So let's talk about front suspension. What have we got going on here?
So front suspension, yeah. So Thuren Components is a small company out of Bend, Oregon, and they pretty much specialize in Rams. So the front springs are Thuren 2-inch springs. And then it's a Thuren overland shock, which just is their basic twin tube nitrogen filled shock. And then I got Thuren control arms, which I just put on. Those are offset and have a bend in them to allow clearance for 37s, which is kind of what I was waiting on before I put 37s on. They also have Heim joints in them rather than the rubber joints. So they actually, the control arms improve the handling incredibly. I also have Thuren sway bar links, which are right there. And then I also did a Thuren adjustable track bar, a brand new OEM steering stabilizer, Moog ball joints, and the upper tie rod has just been replaced with a Moog. It was getting a little sloppy as well. So the performance over stock is improved dramatically. It's really stable, handles good. Well, it took a full day to do. The control arms and springs for sure. I mean, it's a big project. I dropped the whole front axle loose. I did the control arms one side at a time, and the springs and the shocks. It's a big job. I mean, you got to have a big set of wrenches. I think everything up to 24 millimeter. A torque wrench. Some of the stuff like the track bar, you have to torque to 200 foot-pounds. So you need some heavy-duty tools.
So, but all that stuff improved over stock. You said the stock bushings were pretty shot.
Yeah, obviously the stock track bar bushings were completely gone. The ball joints definitely need to be replaced, and then the stock bushings and the control arms, I was really surprised how bad they were when I took them out. So the truck had a little over 90,000 miles when I moved those, and those things were completely done. I've been chasing clunks and creeks, and it turned out that that's what it was.
Do you think that's a result of its previous life?
Yeah. So I bought the truck used off a used car lot. It was hard to find used power wagons. It used to belong to the Department of Fish and Game in Klamath. So the truck obviously had a hard life before I ever got it, and yeah, I think it was driven hard and maybe not taken care of very well. So these sliders are a serious point of contention in all the blogs and Facebook pages and all the Ram Power Wagon stuff. There's another brand of sliders that a lot of people used that attaches to their frame. These actually attach to the body. These are Randy Ellis design sliders, and what gets everybody's hairs up and what people don't understand is how can it attach to only the body and still be strong? So it's riveted all the way along the rocker panels, all the way down. There's got to be 100 rivets, and then it bolts to the body seam down here, as you can see, with another 25 bolts. This part right here, the main frame of this slider, is a heavy square tube that exactly follows the line of the OEM rocker panels. So it lays in there and it lays against the rocker panel tight. And then basically the rivets on top are just holding it against the body. The seam on the bottom gives it vertical support, but anytime you hit something, it spreads the load out on the whole rocker, the whole cab. This part here is something you can have added to it. It normally comes without this tube and is just the box piece itself against the rocker. I wanted the tube because I wanted to keep rocks farther away from the doors, and I'm glad I did. As you can see, there's a big dent right here.
Yeah, there's a couple on the other side too.
Yeah, but if you've seen the videos, I literally pinched this thing between two Volkswagen-sized boulders and drug it through with a winch. So they've proved to be more than durable. They are a rock slider, despite what some people who have never seen them or have never installed them like to say. But the Randy Ellis design, I believe in it. I think it's great. It's brilliant the way it just hugs the body. It gives me a lot more clearance than a frame-mounted slider, which you can imagine would actually be sitting down here. Right. So the main reason I chose these was because, you know, I'm 3 inches taller than a frame mounted slider. Again, I have absolutely beat the crap out of these. And other than dents being on the tubing, they've come through great and have done what they were designed to do, which was protect the rocker panels. So a couple reasons why I went with these is the rocker panel on the passenger side was already damaged. It already had a dent in it, and these things cover that dent up and then protect it from future damage. With that said, this was a used truck. It had 90,000 miles. I knew I was going to use and abuse it. If I bought a brand new 2016 truck, I don't know that I would go through and drill 100 holes in a rocker panel. My other concern, if somebody was in an environment that was prone to rusting, this may not be the best solution. But we're in a dry environment. The truck's gonna get beat. It already had a bent rocker. I think this was a perfect choice. I did caulk up the seam just to keep a lot of water from getting in there. But as far as the durability goes, I don't care what anybody says. They've proven themselves. There's some people who swear by the frame mounted sliders, and I'm sure they're great products, but what I can vouch for, what Mike can vouch for anybody that's been out banging around the rocks is durability is not an issue with these.
Yeah, they're pretty badass. Nothing else special under here except for all of the stock power wagon skid guards, which are pretty good based on our experience at Snake Lake. There's a rusty scratch over there. I mean,
yeah, there's a bent one right there, but
you drug them over the coals pretty good.
Yeah, luckily, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted this truck. It's got a lot of armor already built into it down here. The only thing I did with the rear suspension, other than, you know, the overland shocks all the way around, is I put these adjustable shackles in that were also made by Thuren. Right now they're in a middle position, which is...
Oh, I see it's got multiple holes.
Yeah, which is 1 inch of lift. I'm gonna, now that I added 1 inch to the front, I'm gonna move it up to 1 3/4 inches of lift so that I maintain a little rake. I like the look of a little rake, plus when we pull a trailer, I don't like my headlights pointing up in the air. So that's the only thing I've done back here is the shocks and the shackles. The spare tire is still the OEM BFG 285/70/17. From the research I've done, a 35 will fit in there. I don't know if I'll be able to get any bigger, but I'll at least put a 35 in. And then, you know, if I flat while I'm running 37s, then I'll have one tire that's a little undersized. But I'm not too concerned about that. I drive pretty conservatively. I don't drive really fast on dirt roads or sharp rocks. And I tend not to lower my pressures as much as some people just because it's a heavy truck.
Yep.
Our other hobby besides camping and exploring is mountain biking. This was I like this option because we didn't need a camper shelter mounted on top, but it gets everything up so that we can still use the bed. There's plenty of room to, you know, put Rubbermaid containers or anything else we got going in there. My wife really likes this because she can actually hold up a bike and get it on there easier than she would have been able to on top of a Jeep or on top of a camper shell. So far we really like this. It's worked out really well. And then I have a 4x rack for my high lift jack. And then I have, you know, a crossover box that literally I bought for $100 off of Craigslist. And this has actually been great. I keep all of my recovery gear, my high lift jack accessories, my shovels, anything you can think of that you're going to need off-road, tire chains, everything all fits inside of this. So I have my bed, nothing in the cab's used up with that.
So anything abnormal in here?
No, I pretty much keep everything stock, except I did put some high energy coils on. I got these at one of the hot rod shops. They're called Sultans of Spark. So instead of 22,000 volts, they produce 40,000 volts. And I actually did notice a big difference with new Champion plugs at 45 thousandths gap. With these, I picked up 2 miles per gallon. So that's the only thing I've done to the engine. I'm not into doing the exhaust. I like nice, quiet trucks. And trucks that are smooth, and I've always felt that the engines are more reliable if you leave them stock. So that's pretty much it.
I think you want to go that way so you get hung up on his axle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm accustomed to driving full-size trucks. I've been doing it forever with work, and actually, I used to own a quad cab long bed, Cummins turbo diesel. We downsized our trailer, and I thought I could get away with a Jeep Wrangler, and it turned out we couldn't. Between the RV trailer and 2 kids and a dog, the Rubicon didn't cut it. We spent some time in an F-150 with an EcoBoost, and I wasn't happy with that. I wasn't happy with the EcoBoost, especially the performance of it when I was towing. Okay, so after, you know, it's kind of a running joke in our circle of friends how many vehicles I've bought and sold to try to find the right one. You know, like everybody else, I want one rig that does it all. I don't have a lot of room to keep a dedicated, you know, rock crawler or do that kind of driving enough to justify that. So when I realized the F-150 wasn't going to cut it, I hunted down a used Power Wagon, and yeah, it's a lot more truck off-road. It takes a lot more time to get through things. You have to be comfortable with, you know, pinstriping it and maybe dents here and there. I'm okay with that. Some people aren't. But in a lot of situations, it's actually better. You know, when you're going up and down steep stuff, it's a lot more stable. And it works really well for things other than, you know, heavy duty rock crawling. I think with what most people would consider overlanding, you know, dirt roads out in the middle of nowhere, the full size is actually great because, you know, all the running gear, the engine, the payload capacity is a lot higher. So it does 90% of what most people would want without working nearly as hard as a smaller vehicle would.
Cool. I just looked back at Brent and he gave me the thumbs up. It's winch time! Winch time!
So I have it's fairly simple, just a Cobra 29 CB. But to talk a little bit about how Power Wagons come from the factory, they have a lot of nanny controls to operate the disconnecting sway bar and the lockers. The lockers are electric. You have this switch, and you have to put it in 4 low. You have to disconnect the sway bar, and then you roll this and you unlock the rear locker, and the light flashes till it decides to unlock. And then if you get in a situation where you need a front lock, you turn the switch and you wait till the front lock. Anyway, it's a pain in the ass. It's a bunch of nanny stuff to keep people from, you know, using lockers when they shouldn't be, or disconnecting the sway bar when they shouldn't be. I've eliminated all that. I hardwired the lockers so that they do not go through the smart bar setup, which is what controls the sway bar disconnect. I can lock them independently. I can lock the front without the back, vice versa, anytime, any speed, any gear. So I just put these little rocker switches in. I have a toggle switch next to the CB that controls the power to the switches so that nobody can lock them when I shouldn't. So I give them power and I hit the rocker switches.
And they just lock right up.
And they lock up and unlock instantly. It works so much better than the factory setup. So I don't have to wait. And when you're going up steep and rocky trails, generally you're locking and unlocking the front locker a lot. I mean, and you need it right away. And this system just is completely useless, and it starts to malfunction to where they just don't want to lock anymore. The other thing that I did is I completely disconnected the smart bar setup, and I put an EVO manual sway bar disconnector on it. I actually have to reach under the bumper, and there's a little screw you turn in and out. So now I have manual switches for the lockers, and I have a manual switch for the sway bar, and I'm totally happy with that setup.